So Chainsaw Man chapter 167 is out, and oh, is it a loaded one. Right off the bat, I want to say that if you're genuinely uncomfortable with this chapter because you aren't comfortable with certain depictions of sexuality, especially of the dubiously consensual variety, I ain't got no beef for you. Far be it from me to police what people do and don't enjoy, and when I say but, that isn't me trying to invalidate your opinion or your taste or whatever. But I do think some of the wider reactions to this chapter are kinda weird, not gonna lie. I understand that anime being anime means we always gotta be on edge with this kind of stuff. I don't care how much you gas up the erectile dysfunction arc, I am not watching Mushoku Tensei anymore. But I do feel some of the reactions are kind of juvenile. Let's break it down. Firstly, I don't know how you guys made it this far and didn't see something like this coming. Even putting aside the fact that Chainsaw Man has never shied away from showing gross shit coming out of the human body, the series has done this specific thing before. Sex and all its baggage is a major theme of Chainsaw Man. What it means to desire sex, why people desire sex, how sexual attraction or a lack thereof affects relationships. And the nature of consent, when it is and isn't given, and the minefield that exists in between, is one of the biggest ways the series explores this theme. I hope I'm not blowing anyone's mind by saying this, but Denji is a victim of grooming. Like, not in a subtextual, metaphorical way, man just gets groomed straight up. Every interaction he has with Makima is predatory, and oh yeah, he literally nearly gets statutoried by Himeno. Now I will say the instance in 167 is done in a more explicit way than before, so I understand people being caught off guard by it. This is especially the case if you deliberately compare it to other really big anime and manga. I can't think of too many that deliberately engage with sexuality as a theme in the way Fujimoto does, at least ones that aren't explicit romances. But comparing it to itself, this is very tonally and thematically consistent with Chainsaw Man prior, just more explicit and detailed. I imagine part of the reason Fujimoto moved out of the magazine and onto Shonen Jump Plus was because he wanted the freedom to explore these themes in more detail, like he did with his previous series Fire Punch. And if this is too much for you, mate, you better stay the fuck away from Fire Punch. So now let's dig into the scene itself, but before I get to that, I want to say something. To all the Kumas who read this chapter with one hand, you're just as bad as any puritanical trying to shut down all discussions of sexuality. You have just as much responsibility for creating an environment where sexuality cannot earnestly be discussed in a nuanced, multifaceted way. Go wash your hands. So, the actual chapter is very interesting in that we have 3 different characters taking part in a sexual act that it isn't clear any of them consented to. Poor fucking Denji is just having the worst day of his life without his weird relationship with Asa getting even weirder. I don't think he even knows about Yoru yet, so from his perspective, Asa is just wildly swinging from one extreme to another. He literally thought she was gonna cut his dick off. Looking at his expressions, I don't know if he's even really processing what's happening. Asa obviously has no control over this. Yoru is in complete control of her body at the moment, and though she does like Denji, I can't imagine she thinks this is the opportune time to get him off. I can only imagine that she's just off panel in Yoru's head, just screaming. And speaking of Yoru, I've seen people confused as to why she suddenly goes from wanting to maim Denji to kissing him, and I'm like, Yoru clearly states in chapter 117 that she is falling in love with Denji because Asa is, and she shares Asa's brain. Like, I know this is a serial series, but I feel like that's an important detail to remember. What this means is that Yoru is essentially being taken over by feelings that aren't hers, meaning that even though she's the one initiating, you can't 100% say that she's consenting either. This is a weird situation, and it's also one I can't wait to see resolve. I know some people have brought up the art being a bit inconsistent as of late, and yeah, I think the schedule is starting to get to Fujimoto a bit, but I still love the way man does expressions. You can feel all the tension, confusion and desire in this chapter just from the facial expressions alone. At the time of recording this, the next chapter is coming out tomorrow and I'm excited. I don't know where the series is gonna go, but honestly, when have I ever? Part of the appeal of Chainsaw Man is that it is impossible to predict, but even though I haven't seen anything coming, I have faith it's gonna be great. Shout out to my patrons, especially Michael Coolwood, love you for your support. For all those who aren't familiar, this is my second channel. You can find my main one in the end card and the description. It's where I make my long form video essays. Check it out if you're interested. Peace.